But anyway, right then, boys and girls. So, the Wowhead Weekly Wrap-Up. This is episode 182. Samadan puts this together for us each and every week. It goes up on Wowhead, usually roughly at the same sort of time on a Sunday evening. Samadan will usually go through this on his stream shortly after it goes live, and I'd like to cover it on a Monday morning for those that may have missed it. If you haven't checked out Samadan, please make sure you go and do. He's got his YouTube channel where he's got a nice entry-level beginner series on goal making, and additionally he's often considered the Bob Ross of goal making. He's with his very sort of smooth voice. Let's take a little bit of a look at the table of contents for this one this week. We have a 9.1 release date and what to prepare for from a goal making perspective. We had TSM 4.11 beta being launched, and it seems as if it's a relatively short news week because of those two things. Let's dive straight into it then. So, unless you've been living under a rock, you are probably aware right now that patch 9.1 is, we have an actual release date, June 29th if you play on the NA realms, June 30th if you play it here over on the EU, and it's now that people are starting to look at preparing, buying up some materials, getting their professions in order, catching up on the last bits of renown farming or whatever it is that they may be doing. So it's now less than 2 weeks away. Or at least there's only one reset technically, so less than 2 weeks away. Came as a bit of a sudden announcement this week, and all the goal makers scrambled to buy up legendary materials in anticipation of the sudden influx of people wanting to craft legendaries. Stocks have been doing some crazy things. They've been on a gradual decline in price for a long time, but prices are now slowly creeping up. Here is a graph for the EU Lightless Silk. The NA one is a completely different picture. Yeah, this is one that was focused on by a few content creators because it's doing some wacky stuff, right? What you can see from this graph is that the supply, the red line, the wiggly red line at the top is the available quantity of Lightless Silk across the EU as a whole. Not any one specific server, but the EU as a whole. So you can see from the very start of the expansion, it slowly creeped up for a long time until sort of early April, I'd say, where it sort of leveled off. And only in recent weeks has the available quantity started to decline, probably because we're at a record low amount of people playing right now, but also for the fact that people are starting to buy it, not necessarily just to use it for today's crafts, but to store it because it's cheap for when they need it in the future. And in turn, the price has also dipped to an incredibly low average price considering where it started. It started over 100 gold a piece, this Lightless Silk. I can't even begin to fathom just how much gold the early 2x4 farmers were racking in from Lightless Silk, but needs to say it was a lot. It dropped all the way down to a low point of what here looks to be about 30 gold across the EU. This price on the NA is significantly different. In fact, for reference, let me bring up the the NA equivalent really quickly for you to show you just like how outrageously different it is. Let's go Lightless Silk. Hang on, we're still on EU. Let's try again. There we go. So yeah, if we compare the US graph, the same thing, you'll see that it started off doing basically the same, but the price just plummeted to a considerably lower price point. Over on the NA realms, the average price of Lightless Silk has been 5 gold. I'd say most realms you can probably pick up Lightless Silk for less than 5 gold a piece, compared to what was like arguably 30 gold on EU. This is crazy. This is crazy. If you play on the NA realms right now, picking up some Lightless Silk for what is almost free is an incredibly good investment based on what we know in patch 9.1. Lightless silk is out of nowhere going to be needed in very, very large quantities. Every single cloth rank 5 or 6 legendary is going to need close to 3 stacks of lightless silk. Yes, 3 stacks of lightless silk, meaning the demand for this stuff is going to skyrocket. And it'll probably mean that people can't farm it fast enough to meet the supply. So if you play on the NA realms and you buy some of this stupidly cheap stuff right now, isn't it 2 stacks? Well, it's about 500 lightless silk, so it's between 2 and 3 stacks. Either way, it's a hell of a lot of lightless silk you need just to craft a single legendary. So if you play on the NA realms, you've got an opportunity to make a bunch of gold right now. Gather up some of this lightless silk very, very cheap. Either use it for crafting in 9.1 or sell it for 2-3 times what you bought it for, and you should be good. You should be good. Let's move on though. So while the legendary crafting system is taking the headline numbers with some eye-watering costs, it's not going to be the only way to make gold in 9.1. No, of course. There are many, many ways to make gold. For sure, especially when we come into a new patch or a new season, as Blizzard likes to call them nowadays. Enchanting, alchemy, and the food market should pick up again because of the new raid. There's also going to be Crafters Mark 3. Crafters Mark 3 is going to give us the ability as crafters to make item level 200 gear. Those that are re-rolling alts, leveling up fresh characters. This is going to be a really, really good way for them to just step foot in the auction house, spend a bit of gold, get them straight up to item level 200. For reference, when you ding level 60, you ding level 60 most of the time at a very, very poor item level. It's something like 130, 135. So to be able to go straight to the auction house and buy item level 200 gear is going to mean that you kind of get this huge power bump and can probably just, you know, start stepping foot straight into Corthia or into the raid with your guild or into M+ with your friends in that regard. There are some other ways to make gold, of course. There's a few little niches, things like the Vantus rune. There's going to be a new Vantus rune for the scribes out there. If you can get into the raid and you can get the pattern for the Vantus rune nice and early, you should be able to see some good results by crafting and selling these. Shade stones, it becomes shade stone season. If you have an alchemist and you've got the, honoured with the, I want to say the avowed, the mini faction in Revendreth. If you pick up the Shadestone recipe, this is a daily cooldown, what do you call it? A transmute, daily cooldown transmute, so your alchemists can get on board with this, and this is needed by people who raid on a regular basis. There's also the contracts, so this is all tying into both alchemy and inscription as professions having a little bit of resurgency. Alchemy just kind of does well all the time anyway, because it's just so heavily consumable based. Everybody always wants potions and everybody always wants flasks. Obviously there are times in the expansion where people want more of them, but alchemy is just, you know, a solid profession, almost expansion wide, always is, always probably will be. Inscription tends to be a little bit more seasonal. We have the Dark Moon cards at the beginning of the expansion, crafting the Dark Moon trinket decks, and there's always things like the tomes and stuff for re-rolling your talents and whatever that is popular with the scribes. But Shadestones, contracts, Vantus runes, a few other little markets for you to potentially take a little bit of a look into. The market is always ripe for farmers to make a decent amount of gold as well. Yeah, the truth be told, your first gold in this game usually will come from farming. You often need a fair amount of gold to step foot into the crafting markets to begin with. Most of that gold will usually come from doing some sort of farming, and we know that with recent multi-box and bot changes, that there should be more natural ways for average Joe to go out there, farm up some materials and make some gold. We get flying when we reach renowned 44. So one thing that was of a high priority for me was to make sure that my main character at least was renowned 40 going into patch 9.1. This will give you the ability to chip away at the new campaign quests in 9.1 as they become available. They are somewhat time gated. Renowned 44 will unlock the quest line to get flying. You just do 1 or 2 quests of the campaign and flying just gets given to you, which is very nice. No Pathfinder achievement this time, which is a big thank you from some people. The Pathfinder achievements do annoy and frustrate a whole bunch of people, I'm very aware. This time it's as simple as, you know, do the basic campaign and then you're good, right? Herbs and all, because of this though, we may see a steady decline in their value. This depends just how many people actually go out and do farming though. With so much new content available in a new patch, most people tend to want to do the new content more than they do want to go out there and do farming. But it's true to be told that flying will make herbalism and mining much easier, as you just zip around on your flying mount and pick up herbs as and when. Of course, the demand is much higher for these materials as well, so you'll have to see how it goes on your realm. But flying will definitely make it easier for people to go out there and farm a lot of herbs, so expect that to have some effect. Mantheus has put together a great priority list. Yes, I did. We structured this, we brainstormed this a few days ago on the stream. This is the video that's on YouTube right now. It's been a relatively popular video, so I'm glad it was helpful to some people. We basically broke down everything into sort of 3 categories, like high priority stuff to do before patch 9.1, medium priority, and then low priority stuff. Yeah, so here we go. Flying at 40, pretty high on the list, because of course you want to get flying ASAP. You can't fly in Korthia or the Moor, but you will be able to basically live there. The Eye of the Jailer is no longer a thing after you complete a couple of quests in patch 9.1, meaning that flying, although we get given flying, we get given it just in time for us to probably not really spend much time in the zones where it would have been nice to have had flying for the last 8 months, but what you're going to do, having flying is a benefit all the same. I'm not going to go through all of this. I'll basically just let you guys read through this, simply because I do cover all of this in its own separate video. So check this video out if you want to just, you know, get up to speed with what things should I be doing in these next few days before the patch launches, and just tick some of these things off your list. There's not much time to get things in order if you want to hit the ground running on what aspects of goal making you want to focus on, and how much time you have in each day to put towards it. That's very true. Remember, it is okay to not do everything. Yes, this is a big thing that it's hard to portray, really, because from a content creator's point of view, obviously I'm trying to advise you on what are some of the good things to be doing. It is entirely fine for you to not do everything, but this is why we sort of split it down into a priority system, right? You should probably be doing these high priority things first. It's probably not totally wise for you to be, you know, catching up on rep-gated professions if you're not even renowned 40, for example. Do as much of the list as you feel comfortable doing, but don't feel as if you have to, you know, do everything. Actually go out there and play the game and have fun and enjoy it, that's for sure. So TSM 4.11 is the next topic of conversation for this one. For those who keep track with goal making, Trade Skill Master is arguably one of the most powerful add-ons that we use on a near constant basis to try and make gold in the game. And up until this point, TSM has felt a little bit lacking in its support for Shadowlands, generally speaking. You very quickly come across big barriers that you just can't surpass with the current version of TSM. Luckily though, TSM 4.11 does does fix a lot of these issues that Goldmakers have had. Now, it's in beta. The way that the beta is working is that it's on an invite basis, so you can go onto the Trade School Master website, you can sign up to be part of the beta, and it's on a sort of a first come first served basis. Alternatively, in a slightly more pay-to-win fashion, if you become a TSM premium member, which is a couple of bucks a month, I think it's about $12 over 6 months. Don't quote me on that exactly. But if you're a TSM premium member, you do get instant access to the TSM 4.11 beta. So it's kind of up to you whether you want to get on board with it or not. Is it $2.5 a month? $15 for 6 months, $25 if you pay for the year. Okay, there we go. So it's not going to break the bank. It's probably not much more than a single month of game time in relation to cost over a 6-month period. But I will point out the beta is still very buggy, as you probably would expect betas to be. But it does obviously give you a slight competitive advantage in being able to utilize some of the new features before the masses have access to them. But let's take a little bit of a look at what 4.11 beta consists of. Once again, I'm not going to go through this in massive detail here because I do have a video going over that, of course, as well. Of course I do. I went through the full Trade School Master 4.11 beta, exactly what it does, and I give you, we spent about 10 minutes going through some of the fundamentals in game as well. So there's another video that if you've not already seen it, go check out. But let's give you a quick run through just TLDR basics. Full optional reagent support, so this is your crafter's mark stuff. You can now basically craft and queue up things like 168 gear, which you've not been able to do before, which is really nice. You can play around and group things in a few different ways now. Simple things that have changed with the grouping, things like you can just drag and drop your items and groups about. It makes the structuring of the groups a lot more easy and intuitive to use, and you can choose to put things in a group based on just their item level, or you can choose to put things in a group based on their secondary stats as well. You've got a little bit more customization with how you set your groups up, so that you can sort of optimize your setup that little bit further. They have increased the item tracking. Anybody watching this live on stream will have seen that I just spent about 20 minutes trying to fight with the TSM inventory settings to get it to understand where all my items are and how many of them that I have. So it is still a little bit buggy, but one big advantage now is that Trade School Master fully understands legendary items and crafted gear based on their item level. So it'll differentiate your 190 legendaries from your 210 legendaries, from your 225s, and so on, which is really nice. We mentioned just a minute ago the drag and drop for groups. Big time saving thing. Moving your groups around and making your groups look organized and neat and tidy was often a pain in the ass, meaning that most people didn't do it. They had some very rudimentary, just scrappy groups thrown together. Now that you can just drag and drop stuff about, it's much easier to handle, and it's actually a real subtle update, but it's a massive quality of life thing. Some regional data for Classic. If you're playing Classic or you're playing TBC right now, there's some more sales data, which is always helpful when it comes to pricing things, especially with the old auction house and that sort of stuff. Plus, there's some battle pet info regarding retail. Things like the sale rates for battle pets can be very handy if you're trying to buy pets on one realm and sell them on another. It's handy to know sort of things like their sale rates, so that's a big advantage as well. Yeah, custom themes. Woo! Everybody loves to make their TSM pink for no reason whatsoever. Sure, great. And then there's some under the hood optimizations. They've just kind of tweaked and tuned a few things in the background to make the whole add-on a bit smoother. If you want to check out the Trade School Master 4.11 details in more detail, then there's a link here in the Wowhead article as well. So there we go. This is some fantastic news, and a big thank you goes out to the TSM team who are working on it. Of particular interest is the ability to craft and restock using the optional reagents. This is big. I've been utilising this a lot the last few days, and it's a huge advantage. You'll also need to create new groups using the item level settings. Yes, for long-time viewers of the channel, you may know that I make my groups publicly available, so anybody can download and utilise my groups. I've not got them fully configured for 4.11 yet. I'm still working on it personally, but once they're ready, you guys can have access to the groups as well. They'll be linked in the Discord, so make sure you check out the Discord. Link to the Discord is down below. Saigon Paul has put together a bit of a highlight to what the new group methodology is. There's now 3 ways you can add items to groups. You can add the base items. So this is the same as having the ignore item variation button ticked previously. Basically the same as what you've always done, but it will just mean that, you know, if you craft a shadow scale cape, regardless of what shadow scale cape, Trade Skill Master will all consider them the same. So whether it be a 168, whether it be a 151, whether it have haste, whether it have mastery, doesn't matter. It just groups everything by that base item. This is handy for past expansion transmog. Old transmog where people aren't buying it for the purpose of its stats. They're buying it, you know, to equip it, to get the transmog appearance, to then vendor it. You can group your old transmog by base item. You can group things by specific item. So this is the same as having the ignore variations button ticked previously. It adds items by all known bonus IDs for that particular item. So it's going to take into consideration the level of the item, the secondary stats on it, the socket, whether it's got a socket on it or not. There's a whole bunch of variations if you add things to group by specific item. And the new one that's a massive advantage to me is grouping things by item level. This means for me, I can in essence say, right, all 168s are considered the same. Whether they have haste and mastery, whether they have verse and mastery, to me, it doesn't matter. A 168 piece of gear is a 168 piece of gear. This is a really, really powerful tool, and it's how I going forward, I'm going to group most of my current content crafted gear. But yes, if you're intrigued about TSM 4.11 in a little bit more detail, please check out this video I put up on the channel almost a week ago at this point. But there we go, boys and girls. That is this week's Wowhead Economy Weekly Wrap-Up. This was episode number 182. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to dive a little bit deeper on any of the topics, you can check out the WoW Economy subreddit. There is also the accompanying Discord server for them. And of course, big shout out to Samadan once again for putting this together for us each and every week. You can catch him on his Twitch or even send him questions on his Twitter as well. So there we go, boys and girls. I'll leave it there for this one. If you enjoy these kinds of videos, please remember to give the video a like. It definitely helps the channel grow. If you're watching here live on Twitch, we will do some Q&A about this momentarily. Please stay tuned. If you want to catch these live, please go check me out at twitch.tv/Manthius. We live stream our goal making activities 5 days a week, Monday through till Friday, so come check us out. But I've been Manthius, boys and girls. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.